The following is brought to you by Bleacher Report. If you guys want to check out my live post-game reaction show, make sure to have the Bleacher Report app downloaded and ready to fire up right after the game. You'll find me in the Chargers section. Bolt up.
Kia ora, Bolt fam. It's the director. Chargers fans, forewarning y'all, I'm properly pissed off for this video. I mean, there's a couple of things to take in consideration of being optimistic in this, and of course we're going to hit, on some of those points, which ultimately you walk away from this game as a Chargers fan. As hard as it is to admit, like, this was a very, very solid performance by the Chargers, coming within one score of the Super Bowl champions, a division rival that's been a thorn for the past decade, to come out on the other side of this game with the situation the Chargers were in terms of health of the roster. This was a much, much closer game than I even gave the Chargers credit for. You guys watch my YouTube channel, you'll see that some of my score predictions had this game getting away from us. Chiefs scoring, in the 20s, the 30s a lot of the times, with the Chargers trying to trail behind, because coming into this game, the situation was pretty grim in terms of health, especially the question marks revolving around Justin Herbert and whether or not he was going to be playing this game. I was of the opinion that the Chargers not play Justin Herbert this week. Let Taylor Heineke go out there and try and sort out a win behind a patchwork offensive line and a big, big question mark on defense, missing your top two players. There was a lot. There's a lot in terms of narrative walking into this one. And despite all of that, the Chargers almost took down the Kansas City Chiefs to the point and tune of, I think a lot of the loss here can be pointed to self-inflicted wounds here, man. We had kind of some, I'll be honest, some coaching fumbles in the second half that could have been avoided, saving us some timeouts, maybe even giving us a second look at what would have been a first down and scoring opportunity for the Chargers. You had some offense in terms of play calling that could have used a lot of work. But to keep the score within one possession, to keep the lead for most of the game, that does mean something. I am properly pissed, though. I will say that. The Chargers squandered a pretty big opportunity this week. I'm properly pissed. There's things that the Chargers needed that they didn't get in terms of, I'll be honest, penalty. It's something I honestly expected to see this week. I'm not even going to go out there and say it's the reason we lost. We lost because of, in my opinion, some mistakes. We didn't play a clean game. You have to play 100% clean football in order to take down Kansas City. Okay? But the flurry of penalties didn't help. I think we had twice as many penalties as Kansas City. Those sucked, but it was actually the penalties not called on KC that I think drove the nail in the heart for us here. A lot of penalties that would have put us in field position to score at the goal line, pass interference, lots of holding, stuff that you would hope to see. And again, not even going to bring that up past this, because I don't think that's the primary reason the Chargers went down this week. But what went down with the Chargers this week was a lot of uncertainty of identity, sloppy coaching in some aspects, and play calling. Play calling was certainly something that could have used a bit of improvement in the second half, and something the Chargers have been showing a lot of improvement in this year so far. Second half, this team has looked really good. This year, or I should say this week, it feels like there were signs of it, but it never quite gained momentum. And in the meantime, you got Patrick Mahomes, who, where he gets a little bit of momentum, you may as well hand the dub over to them right away. That's something that the Chargers could not do, that they ended up doing over and over and over again. All right? So with that, let's get into this, man. The Chargers will lose this one 17-10. They will walk out of this game with the Week 5 bye in front of them and an opportunity to get healthy and come back versus the Broncos in Week 6 to hopefully begin their run of a bounce back. And I do expect a pretty big bounce back here, okay? And before we properly get into some of the situation going into this game, let me just say this, man. I don't expect to see a lot of Chiefs fans running around the internet in these parts where the Chargers fans exist. I'm going to say this right now, man. Mark my words. Your days are numbered, Chiefs. Okay? December 8th, when we see you again, you are going down. Because this team proved to me that they are not the same old Chargers, despite whatever jokes they're going to make and whatever comments they're going to make and whatever, arrogance they may spit out, Chiefs fans. You are going down. Because if a Chargers team with a one-legged quarterback, a patchwork offensive line in which this whole offense revolves around, was built upon, the play of the offensive line. If missing our top 2 players on defense wasn't enough for you guys to blow this team out by 3 possessions, I don't know what it is, man. And when we see you guys again December 8th, I do expect this team to be a lot more healthy. I expect Justin Herbert to not be on one leg. I expect to have one or both of our offensive linemen back. And I do expect this defense to be at full health as well. Mark my words. The beginning of the fall of the kingdom has begun. And even though this team lost this week, I fully, firmly believe that because of the way this team lost. Especially, you take a look at dynasty teams, take a look at successful teams, even in beating the Carolina Panthers a couple of weeks back. It's not how you beat a team in that situation, right? It's not that you beat a team in that situation. It's how you beat them. The Chargers, they beat them the proper way. They took control of that game and never let go. Sure, the Steelers could have been a better situation for the Chargers. We just had a lot of injuries happen all at once, right? But this game in particular, even though we lost in a fashion where I'm like, hey, dude, imagine what this team would have looked like with a fully healthy roster. Imagine what this team would have looked like with one offensive lineman out there protecting Justin Herbert, where you don't have to rely on a guy that I've never heard of to play guard. Imagine what this team looks like if you do have Derwin James covering Travis Kelce, who ended up having a pretty decent day today. I don't think that's the case if Derwin James is on the field. Imagine what this game looks like if you have Bosa and Mack out there. Sure, Tully looked great in his absence, right? That's the point. The Chargers looked great in a lot of absence this week. And I do firmly believe that if the Chargers were to meet the Chiefs again in December at 80, 90% health rather than what we rolled out the field with this week, that they are more than capable of taking down Chiefs Kingdom. It may not be this season. Heck, it may not be next season. But the Chargers will be the team in the AFC West to take down the Chiefs in the next 5 years. Mark my words. It has begun. And I saw a lot of example of that in this week. So like I said, walking into this game, I didn't have a lot of hope for this team. The Chargers missing Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, Justin Herbert on one leg. We have ourselves a problem at safety. Derwin James suspended for some reasons. That's all we'll call him. Joey Bosa nicked up, something that we've seen a lot of the last couple of seasons. The Chargers were down their top 5 players. Now, you may be able to say a little bit similar to the Chiefs, right? Oh, Isaiah Pacheco is gone. They did end up missing Rashee Rice at the top of this game, which will certainly give them a little bit of slack for in that department. But for the most part, this was a mostly healthy Kansas City Chiefs team. Take a look at both injury reports. Yeah, the Chargers was a mile long. CVS receipt of injuries. Chiefs were more or less healthy this week. And despite that, you're looking at a score of 17-10. Yeah, I'm properly pissed. But also, the way the Chargers lost this game gives me a lot of hope of what's to come. Let's take a look at some of the statages of this week. Now, Patrick Mahomes, 245 and a touchdown. Definitely expected that this week. The reception was great. The Chargers defense, I will say, despite what score may show you, the yardage put up by some of the weapons in the run game, despite all of that, the Chargers defense actually played their butts off. And they were a big reason as to why I thought they had a chance at winning this game at all. Even with Dan Henley and those guys and all the injuries and no Derwin James, this defense played awesome. Tariq still playing in lieu of our nickel corner Jasir Taylor, who was absent game. Him and Troy Dye stepping in, for injured players, did a really good job. But Pre, who like more rotations, or say more snaps in that rotation because of the missing Joey Bosa, did really well in that situation. Then, of course, you had, wherever he is here, Tuli Tuipulotu. I don't know why he didn't get credit a second. I'll be honest, I actually missed that first play. Does force the fumble, however, helping the Chargers give themselves extra opportunities to go out there and try and grab the lead. Of course, that's exactly what they did in the first half. Chargers defense is largely the reason why this team had any opportunity to win this game at all. And so for those reasons, I'm going to say, man, Jesse Minter, we smell what you're cooking, man. This dude's out here putting up a defense that we were all kind of fantasizing about in the Brandon Staley era. We didn't know what to expect from that guy, but we did know that maybe he's going to bring in a championship caliber defense, which ended up blowing up in our face. Jesse Minter, however, is the real deal. This defense is awesome. To hold Patrick Mahomes to what I'm gonna say this. I can't say it factually, but I'm pretty sure the lowest amount of points that he's scored, the Chiefs have scored in the season so far, is pretty dang good. That is impressive as hell. To take Patrick Mahomes, who threw for 200 and something yards, and only allowed the one touchdown to keep the team within one score is pretty impressive. And again, that's without your two best players on defense. That gives me a lot of optimism for what's going to happen in December, dude. It really, really does. Offense for the Chargers is kind of where we're going to have some conversations, though. And this is going to be something the Chargers will have figured out by that time the Chargers have a rematch in Kansas City. I can't wait for that, man. I honestly, it's just a feeling in my gut, and I've been saying this since the game ended. I think we're going to waltz into Arrowhead and catch Patrick Mahomes with his pants down, man. I really think we're going to take him down in their own dojo. I really do feel strongly about that. But we got to figure out the offense before then, dude. Justin Herbert, he was playing injured. So I'm going to say I give him a little slack for that. Watching him out there, it was very, very obvious it was affecting his play. There was a couple of different incidences where I saw Justin Herbert step forward or back, and you can kind of see the weight of his body cause that ankle to fail a little bit. There was one in particular where Justin Herbert was falling forward after what it looked like his ankle had failed him. He's still able to get the pass off. I think it ended up being incomplete. But I think if he had full strength of that foot, you're looking at a kind of a different situation in the passing game this week, okay? So we'll kind of put that out of the way. Justin Herbert wasn't 100%. 180 yards and a touchdown still isn't going to get it done, though. What was most concerning for me, however, was the run game this week. The Chargers, I did not expect to have the biggest day on the ground because of the absence of those tackles, and that's how big of an impact they make on the offense, by the way. This team was built to run through those positions. J.K. Dobbins has been explosive, and he has emerged as a top running back in the league, I would say largely due in part to the Chargers' excellent offensive line play. Mainly Joe Alt, if I'm being honest with you guys. Yeah, a lot of Rashawn Slater as well. But J.K. Dobbins behind Alt, behind Slater, he's been electric this season. Without them, much tougher task. I could already tell you, even before this game, the interior of the offensive line is going to need some work as the years go on. And we didn't see a lot of production throw over the middle with that. I honestly thought that maybe this was going to be the week that we have more Gus Edwards. Just because Dobbins is not getting the space he needs to make big plays on the outside. Edwards, at least you get a bit of head of steam and some power. I make up for some of that. You're not going to have a big 200-yard night like you normally do for the Chargers, but you're going to find a little bit of a rhythm on the ground, right? The running game really just never got off the ground this week. I think that's a big reason why the Chargers offense couldn't put up more than 10 points. The reason they did put up 10 points at all this week, though, I'm behind this man right here, and I think we can almost consider this a breakout game for him. Ladd McConkey. And it's a reason, it's actually a point that I was hoping to see leaned in on as the game went on this week. When Ladd McConkey broke off, got the touchdown, he was going crazy for some big catches. I was like, hey, man, the run game isn't working. Let's lean into the Ladd McConkey week. Let's lean in to the Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey connection and get to work, dude. I was very passionate about them changing gears to the Ladd McConkey game. And for a little while, it kind of felt like that's where we were headed. But this is part of discovering yourself as a team that I think that just need time still to sort out. There is a world where McConkey and Palmer, and I would say more Quentin Johnston, right? Where these guys help carry the offense through the air in such a way that it opens up opportunities for you to run on the ground. And I think that's a part of the offense that the Chargers are still trying to figure out for themselves. What's complementing what? Does the ground game complement the air? Does the air game complement the ground? Is it both? It is both. But I think right now you're not seeing enough of one side or the other. I think the passing game, when it is your strength, lean into it because it will open up what you can do on the ground. And at some points you are seeing that translate, right? I want to see this connection grow. I want to see Ladd and Justin Herbert be the next big thing in the NFL. And again, I think by the time we see the Chiefs again, it will be very noticeable that was a big improvement. Okay? Cameron Dicker did good despite missing the 55-yarder. I think, honestly, he should have had one more shot at it. I don't know what went on there. And that's going to be the last thing I kind of talk about in this video. And something that I think is really important for us to understand going forward. Again, it's going to be something I think is sorted out as the weeks go on and is cleaned up, especially as we get closer to the rematch in December. But the coaching wasn't perfect this week. As a matter of fact, I think it was kind of bad. There was an opportunity where Jim Harbaugh throws a challenge flag on a catch. I think he was challenging whether or not there was a catch by a receiver of the Chiefs. A lot of us were scratching our heads thinking, yeah, that was a catch. I don't know why we're doing that. And caused us to lose a timeout, which turns out was very valuable. We needed those timeouts at the end of the game. That was not great. Later on in the game, there was a catch by Josh Palmer where he rolled for a first down. It was called short on the field by the refs, even though he was not touched. We saw a couple of different angles where like, hey, man, the Chiefs player, where it looked like it touched him, he missed. And he didn't touch him until Josh Palmer had firmly rolled into the first down. Okay, and this was up against the goal line, right? The Chargers were in scoring position here. And instead of throwing a challenge flag again, Jim Harbaugh calls a timeout. And at that point, you're scratching your head thinking, why aren't we at least take a second look at it? If we're going to call a timeout anyway, let's throw another red flag out there, see if we can get lucky. Because I think we would have. That's something that you would have hoped to see. And again, I don't know the ins and outs as perfect as the next guy. I feel like you do get the two, even if you miss on the first challenge, right? But that's another thing with the coaching where you're like, you're hoping to see at least the opportunity taken, even if it does cost you the timeout that you're going to spend anyway. You know what I mean? In that situation, I think it would have been a first down. Then comes the decision in terms of the play calling, which could have been better this week. The Chargers on 4th and 1 decide to go for it. Off the bat, if you guys watch my live, I was not really up for that. I wanted us to take the points. I was like, take the points. Do what you got. The defense is the only reason you're here. Let's take the points and lean in on that. Instead, the Chargers decided to go for it on 4th down, which I'll be honest, even though I wanted to take the field goal, I didn't hate the idea of going for it on 4th down. Like, you likely need to score a touchdown in order to take down Kansas City, which ended up being true. However, the way the Chargers decided to do that, some weird play action pass on 4th and 1 after you've already proven you can convert with a big old Gus Edwards, with a quarterback sneak of Justin Herbert, which I couldn't believe that they called earlier in the game. There's 100 different ways I think the Chargers could have converted that does lean more into the identity that they're trying to create for themselves than the play that they actually called out there. And, of course, it would get denied. The Chiefs would get the ball back, and that's kind of the beginning of the end for this team. There was some imperfections out there. And I'm here to tell you guys right now that I feel like there's going to be a big, big swing on how the Chargers operate, the mistakes that we've been seeing, the cleanup. It's going to be a big difference you're going to notice coming out of the field in Week 6. That's for a couple of different reasons. One, the health of the team. We were blessed this season. A lot of us felt it was a curse, and all of us were really upset at the top of the offseason when we learned our bye week was Week 5. I was upset. Everybody was upset. Lo and behold, it's a huge blessing. It's a kiss from God. We needed that bye week at Week 5 more than anybody. We need Trey back. We need Rashawn Slater back. We need Joe Alt back desperately. We need Joey Bosa back. We need Derwin James off of suspension. We need our stars back, man. These are the cornerstones, the bulk of the stardom that make up a good football team. Those guys were not there this week. And above all else, we need a healthy Justin Herbert. I think your chances of getting that in Week 6 after this bye week are pretty good. But more so, you finally have some time in a very early part of the year for this new coaching staff, the Jim Harbaughs in particular, the Greg Romans, to sit back, evaluate, and adjust. Because if there's one thing that Jim Harbaugh's been very good at doing to start the season, even at 2-2, is adjust. And I think that same mentality is going to be practiced through the bye week. You can almost think of it as halftime in a football game. He comes back out, they're fired up, they're doing great. I think the same thing can be applied here past the bye week. I think Jim Harbaugh figures out a huge portion of what's not working and what's not clicking on the offense through the bye week. I think Greg Roman and him retreat out to the RVs right out on the beach, and they lock themselves in and they kumbaya every night, figuring out what the formula is that they're missing. What's the equation that's missing here from the Chargers offense to get that run game off the ground and to keep Justin Herbert an elite quarterback in the NFL. Health is big for him, yes, but I think also you got to utilize Justin Herbert to those strengths a little bit more going into the second half of the season. He's one of the best for a good reason, And I think we should use him a little bit more to that strength, especially if the Chargers don't end up being 100% healthy at offensive line. I think a lot of what the Chargers are trying to be depend on high-quality play from the tackles. We have them, but we don't. They could be on the field, but they might not be. We need to make sure we have a backup plan just in case that happens again. It does feel like the Justin Herbert effect was kind of the backup plan all along, but it needs to translate to wins. So, what does this kind of leave us with? Well, one, the Chargers admirably kept us within one score. They had very many opportunities to win this game. A lot of the wounds were self-inflicted. Yes, the penalties did play a part. Not as big of a part as I thought they would, but they did play a part. But despite all of that, they were within one score and had an opportunity to win this game a lot this week, which is very cool. Because when we see them again in December, and we got Justin Herbert at full health, and we got our tackles back, and our defense isn't missing the top two players, I honestly believe we're going to take down Kansas City or the Chiefs in Kansas City. I think it's absolutely possible. And I think it's going to be the beginning of what people are going to start perceiving as a fall of the kingdom. Jim Harbaugh, his staff, Justin Herbert, that much time between now and then, there's going to be a lot of learning. Because if Jim Harbaugh is one thing, he's adaptable. And this team's going to look a lot different between now and December 8th. You guys let me know what you think. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Tough loss for the Chargers this week. I am properly pissed. But we're going to live on to fight another day. The bye week came at a perfect time. We'll be back in week 6 to pummel the crap out of the Broncos and take our frustrations out in Denver. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next time. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a follow here on Bleacher Report. As always, bolt up and stay frosty.